Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Claire Newman will run to Holden Novak after a blow-up with Kyle Abbott, leading to the formation of a vengeful team to fight Audra Charles. Kyle will realize that he has made a serious mistake during the week of September 1st to 5th. Although Kyle hoped a marriage proposal would prove his love for Claire, it'll backfire spectacularly instead. It would appear that Claire will reject the ring when Kyle asks her to be his wife and rant about how wrong Kyle is. Claire wanted to slowly fix their romance, so Kyle's decision to push for wedding bells won't work for her. In the aftermath of this proposal failure, Kyle will lick his wounds and get some guidance from his parents. Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins Abbott will help Kyle navigate the heartbreak he'll be facing. If Claire's friendship with Holden develops into something more, that hurt could get worse. It could happen since Claire will apparently go running straight to Holden after her next fight with Kyle. It will be Claire's decision to lean on Holden and accept the comfort he will inevitably provide her. Even if the encounter is accidental, Holden will undoubtedly allow Claire to vent because her anger will be stronger than her sadness. In order for Holden and Claire to move into romantic territory, Y&R will ensure that they are in the same circle. This is especially true given that Claire and Holden are getting ready to work together to exact revenge on Audra. Holden and Claire will have an Audra-related strategy session in the September 3rd episode, so that'll lay the groundwork for this alliance. It won't be long until Claire gets in Audra's face and lashes out, but that won't be enough. Will Holden assist Claire in a team effort of retaliation, Audra's revenge, crashing Kyle and Claire's wedding? The Young and the Restless spoiler suggests Kyle Abbott is about to propose to Claire Newman. She will likely say yes. Having said that, given Audra Charles's resentment toward these two lovers, is it possible that she will attend their wedding to exact revenge? Audra's target. The downfall of Claire. The Young and the Restless spoilers remind fans that Audra doesn't only have beef with Kyle at this point, but Claire as well. Especially since the Newman blew up her own relationship with Nate Hastings by telling him what she did in Nice, and her scheme with Victor Newman. Still, even though Kyle fessed up to Claire about his kiss with Audra at Kane Ashby's summer home, he still failed to disclose the entire story. The fact that he was only wearing a towel and smile, plus, they were on his bed in his train car during said lip lock. This is still mentioned in scenes, and Audra also recently mentioned it to her best friend Sally Spectra. Claire still doesn't know the whole story, and this could bite Kyle in the butt. Audra's vengeance. Audra seems focused on Claire's downfall. Even before the Nate thing, she hates the fact that Kyle got the better of her in Nice, and knowing that he not only scored Victor's approval, but is marrying Claire, will only heighten Audra's bitterness. Even though Audra dug herself into this hole, she still blames Kyle for losing her Vibrante funding, and now she blames Claire for losing the love of her life. It's easy to see Audra bursting into Claire and Kyle's wedding, just as the priest announces if anyone objects to this holy union. If Audra realizes there is a missing piece that Claire doesn't know about what happened between her and Kyle in the south of France, she'll have no issue crashing the nuptials to set Claire straight and finally blow up their romance, as she originally intended to do. Jack and Billy plot. Amanda's Mission Impossible. Claire's bling. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Friday, August 29th tease the return of Amanda Sinclair at the same time that Billy Abbott snitches about Kane Ashby's plan to Jack Abbott, and Nikki Newman promotes Claire Newman. Things are rock and rolling in GC. Nikki is trying to get Claire's mind off of her relationship woes with Kyle Abbott. Kyle is coming clean about more and more of what happened in Nice with Audra Charles over time. He still hasn't come completely clean, and we'll have to wait and see how Claire responds to him serially omitting the truth when that day comes. In the interim, Kyle tries to cover up his mess by distracting himself with a sparkly engagement ring. The move has desperation written all over it, and we suspect that Claire will be sus when he proposes with a big rock. Amanda is back for Kane elsewhere. Amanda Sinclair is back in town at Kane's behest. Will she be tasked with handling his blackmail dilemma? As his lawyer, Amanda will have her hands full trying to neutralize Victor Newman's blackmail scheme. With Amanda back, we predict that Phyllis Summers wants a favor. What happens next in Genoa City? Phyllis couldn't be more dissatisfied when Kane informed Red that he would be ending his world dominance tour. She was especially looking forward to sticking it to Victor. But is Kane bluffing? Phyllis could pressure Amanda to convince Kane to move forward with his takeover plots. But Billy isn't sure that Kane is going to back down. We anticipate that Jack Abbott will also be skeptical when Billy tells him that Kane has abandoned his plan to ruin them. Billy does not have as much business experience as Jack does. Perhaps the brothers will be able to snooker Kane? Explosive the Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Billy and Jack put their heads together to outthink Kane. And you don't want to miss single minute of the red-hot brainstorming.
Claire Newman's world is about to shift in ways no one in Genoa City could have predicted, because when emotions run high, secrets fester in the shadows, and revenge becomes the only thing that makes sense, alliances form that not only surprise but threaten to destroy everything in their path, and in this case, the fallout of Kyle Abbott's miscalculated marriage proposal opens the door for Claire to forge an unlikely yet dangerously effective partnership with Holden Novak, a man who knows what it's like to be wronged and has no problem going toe-to-toe with the likes of Audra Charles, who has already made it clear that she intends to dismantle the fragile bond Kyle and Claire have been struggling to maintain. So when Kyle gets down on one knee with a ring that was meant to symbolize forever, Claire sees it as nothing but a symbol of desperation, and instead of saying yes she lashes out, venting that Kyle is skipping steps, bulldozing her emotions, and trying to force a fairy tale ending that doesn't exist when their relationship is already on shaky ground. So with emotions spilling over she storms away from Kyle, leaving him shattered, vulnerable, and looking to Jack and Diane for the kind of comfort only parents can provide. Yet even their words of wisdom cannot fix what's already broken, because Kyle doesn't realize that Claire isn't just hurt, she's angry, humiliated, and tired of being in situations where people make choices for her instead of with her. And when anger takes the wheel, it often drives people straight into the arms of someone who will listen, so it's no surprise when she finds herself venting to Holden Novak, who has been orbiting closer and closer into her story, and though their encounter may begin accidentally, it is Claire's decision to stay, to talk, to pour out the frustration that has been building, and Holden doesn't just listen, he validates her, encourages her, and offers the kind of steady energy that Kyle has been failing to provide. So in this moment the foundation of a new connection begins to solidify, one based not only on shared experiences but on the tantalizing lure of payback, because both Holden and Claire see Audra Charles as the common denominator in their struggles, the woman who always manages to slither her way into the cracks of relationships and business deals, exploiting every weakness for her own gain. So while Kyle wallows in his heartbreak, Holden and Claire begin something far more dangerous. An alliance built on vengeance. And in the September 3rd episode, their first official strategy session is less about what to do and more about how far they're willing to go, and the answer, at least for now, seems to be as far as it takes to make Audra regret every smug smile she's ever flashed their way. So Claire, who once tried to be the bigger person, now feels justified in throwing her restraint out the window, promising Holden that she'll not only confront Audra but dismantle her piece by piece, while Holden assures Claire that he has both the resources and the resolve to help her, creating a dangerous combination that YNR fans know is about to explode in spectacular fashion. And while Claire and Holden bond over their shared enemy, Kyle, back at the Abbott mansion, drowns in the weight of his rejection, replaying the moment over and over, wondering if he just destroyed his last chance with Claire. But the heartbreak is destined to get worse when whispers of Claire and Holden spending time together reach him, and jealousy becomes the new fuel for his downward spiral, though the real storm brewing is the one centered on Audra, who remains laser-focused on Claire's downfall, convinced that both Claire and Kyle deserve nothing but misery after humiliating her in Nice and stealing away the pieces of her carefully curated life, because while Audra may publicly shrug off her losses, privately she seethes, tallying each slight and storing them up like ammunition for the perfect ambush. So even as Claire sharpens her claws with Holden by her side, Audra sharpens her own, plotting to take down Claire in the most public, humiliating way possible, by blowing up their wedding. And though Kyle has yet to realize how volatile the battlefield has become, he moves forward with hope, clinging to the dream that Claire might still accept his proposal if he tries again. But what Kyle doesn't know, and what Audra is all too happy to exploit, is that Claire still doesn't have the full story about what went down in Nice, because while Kyle confessed the kiss, he conveniently left out the part where he and Audra were half naked on his bed in the train car, and Audra, never one to let a juicy detail go unused, already teased this piece of information to Sally Spectra, foreshadowing the day she'll use it to destroy whatever fragile trust Kyle and Claire still share. And when that day comes, Audra plans to make it count by storming into their wedding at the precise moment the priest asks if anyone objects, armed with the truth, a sneer, and the satisfaction of watching Claire's face fall as she learns what Kyle never told her. But what Audra doesn't realize is that by then Claire may no longer be the naive girl who falls apart at a single revelation, because Holden's influence and their thirst for revenge will have hardened her, transforming her into someone capable of turning the tables. And the question that lingers is whether Holden and Claire's vengeful partnership will spiral into romance, or whether it will remain a calculated alliance against a shared enemy. But either way, the battle lines are drawn, the players are preparing their weapons, and Genoa City is about to witness a war of love, betrayal, and revenge that will leave no one untouched, not even those who think they're safe on the sidelines, because when Jack and Billy begin plotting Kane Ashby's next move, Amanda Sinclair re-enters the picture with her own impossible mission, and Nikki Newman promotes Claire in an attempt to distract her from Kyle. Every subplot folds into the chaos, intertwining until the entire canvas of the show vibrates with tension, and at the center of it all, three names will dominate the whispers in Crimson Lights: society, and the Newman Ranch alike, Claire, Holden, and Audra, the new triangle of destruction that promises to change Genoa City forever. Because once Claire and Holden agree that Audra Charles must be taken down, the story shifts from quiet conversations in dim corners of society to a full-scale conspiracy that bleeds into every plotline unfolding in Genoa City. And while on the surface Holden looks like the calm, collected friend simply offering Claire a shoulder to cry on, underneath he's drawing up blueprints for destruction, helping her channel the pain of Kyle's betrayal into a weapon sharp enough to cut through Audra's smug facade. Yet in typical YNR fashion, the plots never stay confined to 2 or 3 characters. Everything becomes interconnected, tangled like vines, until the whole town feels the tremor, which is exactly what happens as Jack and Diane, while privately consoling Kyle, start to piece together that Holden's sudden closeness with Claire isn't just innocent friendship, but Jack, cautious as always, warns his son that desperation only pushes people further away, while Diane, ever protective, wonders if Holden might have his own agenda. And though Kyle dismisses their concerns at first, the sight of Claire laughing with Holden one night at Crimson Lights plants a seed of jealousy so bitter it threatens to consume him. But what Kyle doesn't realize is that jealousy is precisely what Audra is counting on, because she knows if Kyle spirals far enough, he'll implode on his own. Yet even Audra underestimates the ferocity with which Claire is preparing her counterstrike, because Holden has taught her that revenge isn't about one big blow but a series of carefully orchestrated cuts that bleed your enemy dry. And so while the city watches Kyle's heartbreak, Billy Abbott has his own suspicions brewing, convinced that Kane Ashby's sudden retreat from his takeover plot is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. And he's right, because behind the scenes Kane is quietly using Amanda Sinclair, who's barely back in town before she's thrust into a storm of contracts, blackmail, and half-truths, juggling Victor Newman's threats while trying not to lose herself in Kane's magnetic but dangerous pull. And when Phyllis Summers catches wind of Amanda's involvement, she presses harder, determined to weaponize Amanda's legal skills to pressure Kane back into battle, because Phyllis thrives in chaos and knows that if Kane resumes his offensive, Victor will be forced to spread himself thin, and any distraction for Victor is a win for her. But the ripple effect is that Newman Enterprises, already unstable with Nate Hastings still licking his wounds over Audra's betrayal, becomes the perfect battlefield for Claire's ascent, since Nikki Newman, in a bid to protect her granddaughter's fragile heart, promotes Claire into a more visible Newman role, a move designed to give her focus but one that inadvertently hands her the kind of power that makes her alliance with Holden more lethal. Because now revenge isn't just emotional, it's corporate, strategic, and resourced. So as Claire sharpens her claws in boardrooms by day, she huddles with Holden by night, sketching out ways to make Audra fall from grace so hard she'll never recover. And meanwhile, Sally Spectra, who has always thrived on the drama of others, becomes the town's unofficial gossip courier, reminding anyone who will listen that Kyle's confession about the nice kiss wasn't the whole story, planting seeds of doubt everywhere. And Nate, though outwardly done with Audra, quietly notes every rumor, storing it away as ammunition for when the timing is right, and that timing may align with Claire and Holden's plans. because Nate knows that helping Claire get revenge on Audra could serve his own interests, a fact that makes him another potential ally in their growing circle. Yet Kyle, oblivious to the scale of what's unfolding, clings desperately to the idea of reproposing, convinced that if he can just explain himself, Claire will forgive him, but what he doesn't know is that Claire's heart is no longer in saving him, it's in dismantling Audra, and every time Holden looks at her with understanding, every time he tells her she's right to be angry, she feels herself slipping further away from Kyle's orbit and deeper into Holden's, though whether this will ignite into romance or remain a shared obsession with revenge is a question YNR wisely keeps dangling, and as the days pass, whispers grow that Audra plans to crash Kyle and Claire's eventual wedding, bursting in at the precise moment the officiant asks if anyone objects, but what the town doesn't yet see is that Claire and Holden are counting on it, laying the groundwork so that when Audra bursts through those doors, ready to humiliate, she'll find herself exposed instead, blindsided by a counterattack that leaves her reputation shredded, and perhaps even her alliances destroyed, because while Audra thinks she's holding the winning card, the truth about Kyle's half-naked encounter with her and Nice, Claire and Holden are stacking the deck with secrets of their own, preparing evidence, allies, and moments that will flip the power dynamic in ways that leave Audra staggering, and in the backdrop, Victor Newman looms, quietly evaluating each move, because if there's one thing Victor cannot stand, it's chaos he didn't control, and the idea of Claire, Holden, and even Nikki orchestrating a power play without his blessing is intolerable, which means the great Victor Newman himself could become an obstacle in their revenge mission, though for now, the spotlight belongs to Claire, Holden, and Audra, the combustible trio whose war promises to pull in Jack and Diane as worried parents, Kyle as a spurned lover, Billy as a suspicious brother, Kane as a shadowy schemer, Amanda as a reluctant fixer, Phyllis as an agent of chaos, Nikki as a grandmother mentor, Sally as the gossip stirrer, Nate as a wounded man with his own score to settle, and Victor as the puppet master who may or may not decide to cut their strings. And by the time the dust settles, Genoa City will be forever changed, because when revenge is the foundation of a partnership, love and destruction are never far behind, and in this case, Claire Newman and Holden Novak are about to prove that sometimes the most dangerous unions are not built in romance but in the fire of shared enemies, and when Audra Charles finally realizes she's underestimated them, it will be too late. The trap will already have sprung, the wedding will already have erupted into scandal, and the viewers will be left gasping, knowing this is only the beginning of the next great Genoa City war. Claire Newman's world is unraveling in ways she could never have anticipated, because when Kyle Abbott knelt with a glittering ring and a desperate plea for forever, she didn't see love, she saw panic, manipulation, and a rushed fairy tale meant to cover cracks in a story that had never been healed, so instead of leaning into romance she lashed out, reminding him that relationships aren't repaired by diamonds or ceremonies but by truth, patience, and understanding, three things Kyle failed to offer her, and so she stormed out, leaving Kyle wounded and clinging to his parents Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins Abbott for guidance, while secretly her fury carried her straight into the waiting presence of Holden Novak, a man whose calm exterior hides a storm of resentment toward Audra Charles and who immediately recognizes in Claire a kindred spirit who has been wronged, betrayed, and underestimated one time too many, and though their meeting may have been accidental, Claire's decision to stay, to pour out her frustration, to let Holden not only listen but validate her, marks the beginning of a shift that will ripple through Genoa City, because Holden doesn't merely sympathize, he weaponizes, encouraging Claire to stop drowning in heartbreak and instead rise in vengeance, and so a partnership begins to spark, one not yet rooted in romance but in revenge, with Audra Charles squarely in their crosshairs, for Audra has become the common denominator in their pain, the thread weaving chaos through Kyle and Claire's fragile relationship, Holden's struggles, and even Newman Enterprises' instability, and so, as Kyle licks his wounds, hoping time will heal Claire's anger, Holden and Claire are already plotting their first moves, whispering in society's corners, sketching strategies late at night, realizing that to defeat Audra they must not only confront her directly but unravel the alliances she clings to, expose the secrets she hides, and leave her reputation in tatters, but while their alliance takes shape, the rest of Genoa City is already stirring with subplots that will eventually fold back into this war, because Billy Abbott, ever suspicious of Kane Ashby, refuses to believe Kane has truly abandoned his takeover schemes, And when he tattles to Jack that Kane's retreat smells like a bluff, the Abbott brothers find themselves reluctantly aligned, both wary of a man who never bows out unless he's planning a bigger strike, and sure enough, Kane is quietly drawing Amanda Sinclair into his web, forcing her to balance her role as his lawyer against Victor Newman's ever-present blackmail threats. And though Amanda intends to manage the crisis professionally, the gravitational pull of Kane's charm and his dangerous ambition threatens to compromise her, particularly when Phyllis Summers, who sees opportunity in chaos, pressures Amanda to push Kane back into the fight, arguing that if Kane keeps Victor distracted, everyone else wins, but what Phyllis doesn't fully calculate is that stirring Kane means destabilizing the entire business landscape, which directly affects Jack, Jabot, Newman, and by extension, Claire, who is trying to rebuild her footing under Nikki Newman's protective eye, as Nikki, sensing her granddaughter's heartbreak, offers her a promotion, hoping to channel Claire's energy into meaningful work and away from the destructive spiral of her love life. But Nikki has no idea that instead of calming Claire, she has armed her, given her power, influence, and resources that make